Trump has been working overtime to absolve himself of any of the consequences for his illegal actions, and he has been super successful over the past 4 or 5 months with that. Not really for anything having to do with him, but just how corrupt our system is. And judges around the country are bending over backwards to just get rid of the cases against him. The Supreme Court effectively made him a king even before he won re-election. And so all that's been super depressing, but it stops today because one of his attempts to evade the consequences of his actions has been slapped down by the Second US Circuit Court of Appeals in Manhattan. They have upheld the $5 million sort of penalty verdict against him for the sexual abuse that he was found guilty of for committing against E Jean Carroll a number of years again. And this is good news and dark news at the same time. So it is good news that the verdict against him has not been vacated, that E Jean Carroll will be able to pursue him for that money, and we'll get into other aspects of that too. But it also necessarily is dark news at the same time because it's a reminder that earlier this year he was found guilty of sexual abuse, and then millions of people voted for him to be president, and he will be president despite having been found guilty of sexual abuse. So that still takes a little bit of getting used to. I don't love that aspect of it, but we're gonna get into a little bit of the argumentation from his lawyers, what the judge thought of that. But I want your reaction, Sabrina. What do you make of this?
I mean, I'm happy for her. I'm also of the mind of there's no such real thing as justice when it comes to victims like Carol. Because I mean, look how long it took her to get this verdict. It's been years, and she has just been pulled through the mud the entire time. $5 million would be amazing for her. But I mean, does that really bring a sense of justice? I don't know, but I hope that she is doing well.
Yeah,
Is still
yeah. I agree with you. Now there is more money. That's the sort of add-on penalty extra. I mean, we're the full thing that he's going to owe her, unless that changes, is going to be close to $100 million. But I agree with you. 100. It's money. It's something.
Mhm.
Her life for decades has been marred by this horrific experience that she had because she had an interaction with Donald Trump. And there are a lot of people whose life has been ruined in some respect, at least because of the experiences they've had with Donald Trump. And so for decades, there were people who maybe rented or lived in his apartments. There were people who he sexually assaulted. Now, as president, he has the capacity and reach to ruin way more people's lives simultaneously. The horrors of who he is have become more efficient in that way. But you're right, there's no erasing it. There's no true justice. And it's gotta be weird. I don't know E Jean Carroll, but it's gotta be weird. Like, you get the $100 million and then you watch as the country supports him, wants him to be the most powerful person in the world again, despite knowing who he is. Incontrovertible proof. This is who he is. This is who he has been. And so that's horrific. In any event, the appeals court came to the conclusion that they did because they said that Trump failed to demonstrate that the lower district court erred in several of its evidentiary rulings, as he claimed in his appeal, basically saying that, well, his team had said that the testimony of 2 of his past sexual assault accusers should not have been admitted as part of the case. They also objected to the court hearing a 2005 recording of Trump talking about kissing and grabbing women without first obtaining their consent. And so it's good to see that his defense team does have at least some objection to what he said in that tape, not to the content of it, just of people hearing it. And also, I understand why, if you're in his legal team, you'd prefer to not have a couple of the other women that he sexually assaulted testify, but that's like less than 10% of all of his victims that are on record. I feel like you're getting off pretty easy in that. They could have just paraded in woman after woman after woman after woman, and they didn't do that. So this to me feels like a compromise. I don't think they should be bitching about it all that much. But in any event, you should know that they're saying they're going to continue to appeal this, I guess. Stephen Chung's spokesperson for Trump said that they will appeal the judge's ruling. He called for, quote, an immediate end to the political weaponization of our justice system and a swift dismissal of all the witch hunts, including the Democrat-funded Carroll hoax, which will continue to be appealed. And who knows, maybe in a week or a month or a year, we'll talk about how Clarence Thomas is like, well, it really doesn't seem fair to get this guy on sexual assault. He is our emperor after all. So maybe that will ruin this brief respite of good news. But for now, at least today, Sabrina, we've got something. Any other thoughts?
It's just unfortunate because I know that his supporters, they're just going to treat his word and his public statements as truth, and that's all they care about. If I cared enough about the people in my life who voted for Trump, if I cared enough to get them a Christmas present, I would have gotten them all those shirts that say, I voted for a rapist. Because it's
Oh,
what they admit to in private. Flaunt it if that's,
yeah.
where your heart lies. So yeah,
Oh,
disappointing.
there's a lot of dark truths we're all having to confront in this time.
Yeah.
We're gonna move on in just a sec to some other drama. I will say I had really hoped. I remember maybe you saw it was John Oliver's appeal, his last show before the election, to finally have our country move on from all of this. And we had a great opportunity to in the election, and it didn't work. But I want to always remind you all that while we are not going to turn away from the daily horrors that come with Donald Trump being president once again, that's just not in our DNA individually or in our show. The Damage Report came about as a daily, accounting of all that he does. There is an expiration date to it. And I don't know exactly what form it's gonna come in. Maybe it comes in this form. We do 979 more episodes of the show, and then he's gone. Or maybe it's a true expiration date. I have my preference between the two, but one of those is coming. We will know some peace at some point. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.